So before I get started, I just want to give, I know they just spoke, but just give another shout out to the REDtalks crew. As an English major, I'm a big fan of storytelling. And thanks to the work that they've put in, we've had 2 years of awesome stories that we've gotten to hear. And I mean, standing over here with this slate of speakers, I think we're in for a pretty good treat today. A couple weeks ago, I'm sitting on my couch, no surprise, and I get an email from Kathleen Gerber. It says, "Congratulations, you've been selected by your peers to share a personal story at GRADtalks." I was pretty honored, but I was a little intimidated too. I was like, I don't really know how to put a bow on the Johnson experience. So I did what good future managers do. I delegated. Called my fiance Jamie, the brains of the operation. So we need to brainstorm a little bit. I need some ideas, babe. I don't know what to do. And after I kind of walked her through it, she said, well, whenever you tell me about your business school experience, you really talk about two things. You talk about your friends, and you talk about Microsoft Excel. And I was like, that's kind of not fair. Like, Excel and I are totally friends. That's not mutually exclusive. But after working for like a week and a half trying to put together a talk about pivot tables in an engaging and insightful way, it just wasn't happening. I'm sorry, Bill Schmidt. You guys are stuck with the emotional talk today. I'm sorry. The fall of our first year, I was part of a group of students who got to fly out to Racine, Wisconsin to experience a day in the life with S.C. Johnson. They even sent their corporate jet to Ithaca to fly us out there. Everyone thought that was pretty cool. Everyone except for me. I know it's irrational, but I'm actually super afraid of flying. Like it's just not my thing. But you wouldn't know that if you were sitting next to me on a flight. My dad calls me the duck. He says, you're really calm above the surface, but I know you're freaking the hell out under the water. I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. But I hadn't made many friends outside of my core team yet. It was so early in the year. So I want to make sure I played it really cool on this one. And I succeeded. I made it through the whole flight to Wisconsin. I didn't cry once. So I got that going for me, which is nice. Unfortunately, things were a little bit different on the flight back to Ithaca. See, we had a great visit with SEJ, and when everyone else piled back into the plane, they were kind of flipping through their phones, trying to find the right Instagram filter for their corporate jet selfie. I was actually sitting there looking at the display screen on the plane that showed the altitude, which is admittedly not the best exercise for a fearful flyer. But what are you going to do? 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 feet. I remember it on the flight to Wisconsin. We were up at like 30,000 feet when we were cruising. So I was kind of just waiting to get up to that point so I could just sit back, try and relax just a little bit. Kept climbing over Lake Michigan, 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 feet. And all of a sudden the plane got really quiet. Like suddenly, and in my eyes, terrifyingly quiet. And it didn't feel like we were going up anymore. So one of the things you do when you are afraid of flying is if something feels a little off, you look around at the other people in the plane. And if they're oblivious or calm, you can kind of tell yourself, all right, it's just your fear, it's irrational, push it aside, sit back, enjoy the flight. Of course, that stuff just doesn't matter when the plane takes an unexpected U-turn when you're ascending over the Great Lakes and you start going back from whence you came. So I'm starting to freak out a little bit now. 9,500, 9,000. What the hell is going on? This is not right. At this point, I'm not doing so hot. I'm doing the upside down duck. I'm freaking out on the surface now. And I'm sitting with Faye Allison, with Beth Costa, and they won't admit it, but they were starting to freak out a little bit too. I think it was contagious. And So we all kind of, without speaking to each other, we tacitly agreed, let's do the look around move, try and find someone who looks comfortable. And that was a good idea at first. Unfortunately, the first person we laid eyes on was Jefferson Lee. He was crawling. He was on his hands and knees, crawling up the aisle of a rapidly, unexpectedly descending aircraft. When you're looking around for normalcy, this is not the first thing you want to see. And I look closer, and Jefferson starts reaching his hand out towards the wall of the airplane. I'm like, is this guy reaching for the door? Is he going to jump? You freaking kidding? What is going on here? He wasn't, though. He was actually reaching up towards the snack bar. There were free peanut M&Ms, and flight trouble be damned, he was going to get some chocolate. I respect that now, but it was at that point that we had decided that observing Jefferson was no longer a viable option for dealing with our fear. So in my fear, I looked right in front of me, and I saw the one person who was calmer than anyone I've ever seen in my life, in any situation, good or bad. It's Jason Zelli. Jason Zelli flew planes in the Marine Corps. He's sitting in his chair. He's leaned back, got his legs crossed. He's got a yacht magazine in his hands. Professor Philippowitz told us that those were on corporate jets. He wasn't kidding. And reading the yacht magazine, I could just see his eyes above the top of the magazine. At this point, I can't be quiet anymore. I'm like, Jason, dude, are you a little scared, man? Like, do you know what's going on here? I'll never forget this moment for the rest of my life. He lowers the magazine, looks me dead in the eyes. He goes, if we crash, we crash. I mean, logic is flawless, but it is not that soothing, let me tell you. Nevertheless, our descent continued, and one more crazy U-turn later, we landed right back in Racine. 9-minute round trip. 10,000 up, 10,000 down. Sat on the runway for a minute or two, and then the pilots came walking out. And I'm staring at these guys, and half of me wants an explanation, the other half just wants a big hug. I'm happy to be back on the ground, though. One of the pilots says, hey, we're real sorry about that, folks. We got up there, we got a call. Someone left their luggage on the plane down on the ground. They got their keys and wallet in there. They needed it tonight. We had to go back real quick. I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. I don't know why you couldn't tell us that 10 minutes ago while we were up in the air. I'm freaking out. It would have saved me a lot of perspiration and terror. But I'm not a pilot. What do I know? I mean, it's a small jet. He literally could have just been like, hey, we got to go back around real quick. We'll calm down. But I'm not a pilot. So at this point, something you might be thinking is, what the hell does this have to do with wrapping up the business school experience? That's a valid thought. Let me see if I can bring it together for a minute. As I said, I was an English major, so let's see if I still got it. I think we can all relate a little bit to all the characters on that plane that day. I'm not saying you're all afraid of flying, but you can relate to feeling fear, uncertainty, in an unfamiliar situation. I mean, even in the last 2 years, it might have been when you gave up your past job, you gave up steady income to come here in the first place in search of a new opportunity. Could have been when you first came walking through the doors of Sage. You were waiting to make that first impression on a new group of classmates. Maybe I'd be willing to bet that a lot of you can relate to Jason at some point over the last 2 years, where you're the calm, unflappable expert, and it really doesn't matter what comes your way. You have knowledge and experience on your side. You're able to share that with others, help them through it. He didn't help me as much as I would have liked to in that situation, but I digress. And maybe, this one's a bit of a stretch, but maybe you can relate to Jefferson, who, yeah, I said it was going to be tough. Maybe you can relate to Jefferson, who in a time when things are just beyond your control. You're smart enough to realize that. You realize you can't do anything to change what's going on around you, and so you just reach for your M&Ms. Whatever your personal M&Ms beer might be, you know? And so I'm just kind of thinking about it over the last couple of weeks. When I first came to Johnson, I wasn't expecting those kinds of experiences. I came here thinking this was a means to an end. I was just looking to change jobs, that's all. But I don't know. There's something kind of beautiful in the fact that as students at a business school, we've been able to experience that whole different range of emotions. And I suspect that when we go out to different parts of the business world, we're going to encounter all those emotions and then some, which is pretty damn cool. And now how those emotions and experiences and encounters, how they're going to change us moving forward, I couldn't tell you. I don't really know. All I can tell you is that right now, standing right here, I feel pretty proud to have been a part of this class. And I feel pretty blessed to have been a part of some of your emotions, some of your stories along the way, if only for a little while. Thanks.